Hello, kindergarten scholars. It is Miss M coming to you with another math video to help you with some of the packet work that is being sent home. In one of your packets, you had assignments on measuring length, so this video is to help you complete those assignments successfully. So let's go over some vocabulary that you might see or hear on these assignments. I'm going to read them to you first, and then we will talk about them on some slides coming up. So you might see or hear the word longer than. You might see or hear the word shorter than. You might hear or see the word same. And you might hear or see the word endpoint. So let's talk about what longer than means first. Longer than means that an object is longer in length than something else. But how do I know if it's going to be a good measurement? How do I really know if something is longer or shorter than the other? In order for us to figure out which object is going to be longer or shorter than something else, we need to look at where their endpoints line up for an accurate or a good measurement. And we will talk about what endpoints mean in a moment. So let's look at an example. So I have this blue line and I have this orange line. Now I can tell by looking that I think the blue line is going to be much longer than the orange line, but in order for this to be a correct or accurate measurement, I need to make sure that the endpoints are lined up first. The endpoints are where we start measuring. So these arrows are showing you that the blue line and the orange line, those are their endpoints. They start at the same spot, so I know this will be an accurate measurement. If they were not lined up, it would not be accurate. You would not be able to accurately tell which is longer or shorter than the other. So now that they're lined up, I'm going to look again and I see that the blue line is still much longer than the orange line. So I know that that one is longer than the other. Let's look at another one. I have a skyscraper and I have a house. Again, I can tell by looking that that skyscraper looks like it's going to be longer than the house, but I need to make sure my endpoints are lined up. The endpoints are where we're going to start our measuring. So the bottom of the buildings are our endpoints. They look lined up, so now I can look back at my two objects, the buildings, the skyscraper and the house, and say, that skyscraper still keeps on going and going and going, and that house just stops. It does not go as high, so I know that that skyscraper is longer than the house. Now let's talk about shorter than. Shorter than means that an object is shorter in length compared to another object. Again, in order for us to make sure it's an accurate measurement, the endpoints must be lined up. So let's look at an example on this slide. I have a purple rectangle and I have a green rectangle. So I can tell just by looking that that green rectangle doesn't look like it's going as far as that purple rectangle does. So I think that one might be shorter, but in order for us to really tell, we need to make sure their endpoints are lined up. So on this, the endpoints of these rectangles start right here, and I can tell that they are lined up, so it will be an accurate measurement. If those endpoints weren't lined up, so if that green rectangle was sitting right in the middle of the purple one, it wouldn't be accurate. The ends of the rectangles need to be lined up, and they are. So I can look back at these two rectangles and say, that green rectangle is just not going as far as the purple rectangle is. So I know that that green rectangle is going to be shorter than the purple rectangle. Let's do another one. I have an inchworm and I have a snake. Now I can tell by looking at these that I think the inchworm is going to be shorter, but in order for us to know for sure, our endpoints need to be lined up. So let's check and see where our endpoints are on these two pictures. The end of the inchworm and the end of the snake are our endpoints. So I know that those two are lined up, so this will be an accurate measurement. So now I'm going to look again and say, well, the inchworm still is not going as far as that snake is, so I know the inchworm is shorter than the snake. What about same? Same means two objects are equal to one another, and a way for you to think about that is identical. Identical means it's exactly the same. So if you look at both of your hands, if you line them up, they are exactly the same size and they look exactly the same. Another way to think about it is identical twins. If you've ever seen identical twins, they look exactly the same. So when something's telling you to find something that is the same as something else, they need to look exactly alike. So let's look at an example on this slide. I have an alligator, I have a baby alligator, and I have another alligator. It wants us to find the one that is the same length. So I'm going to look and say, well, I have two big alligators and one small alligator. So those two big alligators look like they're lined up and they look like the same length. But first we need to check and make sure that we have lined up our endpoints. So the endpoints of our alligators are their mouths. You can see with these arrows, they're lined up. So I know this will be an accurate measurement. And now I need to look and say, which two are the same? Well, the baby alligator in the middle does not go as long as those two big alligators. His tail stops at their stomachs and they keep going. So I'll look at those two big alligators and say, their endpoints are lined up and their tails stop at the same spot. So I think those two are going to be the same. So scholars, when you're completing your packet work, use this video to help you understand what the words endpoint, longer than, shorter than, and same mean so that you can be successful in completing your assignments.